One Christmas Eve, a little girl was helping her mother peel and dice vegetables. The girl's mother was saying,
"The onions will be silver, and the carrots will be gold.
And the potatoes will be ivory."
The little girl's mother had a big bowl in her lap where they put in the cut-up vegetables.
But our tears can be the pearls,"
said the mother, and they laughed at that and dried their eyes. Then suddenly, their landlady, who lived in a big house nearby, rapped on the door and came right in without being greeted.
"What are you two up to?"
"We are making a vegetable pie for Christmas dinner."
And the onions are silver, and the carrots are gold, and the potatoes are ivory, with a few tears.
"At our house, we're having turkey, cranberry sauce, and candied yams."
But we are going to have a Christmas pie, and the onions will be silver, and the carrots will be gold.
"You already said that, and I should think you'd know at your age that they are nothing of the kind."
But they are.
"Run along, darling, and find Kitty Cat. He's out in the cold. You can put on your new red sweater."
So the little girl hopped away, and the landlady said,
"She's old enough to know that onions aren't silver."
"Oh, but they are, and the carrots are gold, and the potatoes are..."
If you say that again, I'm going to scream. It sounds silly.
"But it isn't in the least silly. It is sensible. When people are poor, they have to make the most of what they have. And though we may only have inexpensive things in our pie, the onions will be silver and..."
Stop it! I came over here intending to tell you that you could wait to pay your rent until next week. But since you can't act like a rational creature, I've changed my mind. Your rent's due today, and I expect to receive it when your husband gets home.
"I am sorry, but it has always seemed to me that making the best of things was quite reasonable."
Well, a vegetable pie is a vegetable pie, and I wouldn't teach a child to call it anything else.
"I haven't taught her to call it anything else. I was only trying to help her feel that it was something fine and splendid for Christmas Day. So I said that the onions were silver."
Don't say that again, and I want the rent as soon as possible."
With that, she marched out the door. The little girl's mother stood there alone in the middle of the floor. Then the door opened, and the little girl hopped in, followed by a great gray kitty cat, who rubbed against the mother's leg and greeted her with a purr. And the little girl said,
"Mother, why don't we have turkey?"
"Turkeys are quite expensive. Besides, we are content with what we have."
Content? What's content?
"It's making the best of what God gives us. Our best for this particular Christmas day, honey, is our pie full of treasures."
So they finished peeling the vegetables, and after that, the little girl had her supper of bread and milk and climbed up on her mother's lap.
Tell me a story.
"Wouldn't you rather talk about Christmas presents instead?"
Yes, Mama, let's.
"We can tell each other what we'd rather have in the whole wide world. You go first."
Well, I really would like to have a doll with a fluffy pink dress and eyes that open and shut, shiny shoes and long white stockings, and especially I want it to have black curly hair like mine.
She paused, out of breath, but in a moment she said,
Now what do you want, Mama, more than anything else in the whole wide world?
"Well, besides peace and harmony, I think I'd A chocolate mouse.
A mouse? I shouldn't think you'd want a mouse, even a chocolate one.
Why not?
Because a chocolate mouse isn't anything.
Oh, but it is. A chocolate mouse can do so many things. It can scamper hickory-dickory-dock up the clock, or bite a lion, or hide under the chair of a queen, or run after the farmer's wife, or entertain the frog who went a-courting, or even take a trip to the city to visit his cousin.
Could a chocolate mouse do all that?
That and more. We could put him on the clock or under a chair.
Oh, do you mean a chocolate mouse we could eat?
Yes, maybe one with cream inside.
Well, I hope you get one. You don't suppose I might get one for Christmas too?
Maybe.
It sounds like a lot of fun. Would he be nicer than a doll?
Maybe not nicer, but affordable. Sweetheart, we had saved up money to get you a doll, but the landlady was here asking for the rent. If we don't pay the rent, there will be no place for us or a doll, or a chocolate mouse, or a stove to cook our pie of silver and gold and of
Ivory. But won't Daddy be bringing home money for the rent?
No, honey, you know Daddy has been sick for a long time and has just returned to work.
But he's well now.
I know, but we have to pay the doctor and the druggist.
At school, our landlady's boy teased me. He says we're poor, Mama.
He may think so, but we are rich, my sweet. We have love, each other and Kitty Cat.
His mother won't let him have a cat. But he's pretty sure he's going to get a video game for his TV this Christmas.
Would you rather have a video game or Kitty Cat?
No, I'd rather have Kitty Cat than anything else in the whole wide world.
At that, the cat jumped up on the arm of a chair beside the little girl and began to purr so loud and long that the little girl grew drowsy.
Tell me more about the chocolate mouse.
She mumbled, and then nodded and fell asleep.
The mother wrapped herself in a great cape and went out into the cold dusk. She went straight from her little house to the big house and rang the bell at the back entrance. A maid led her into the kitchen, and there was the landlady and two women who worked for her, and a daughter-in-law who had come to spend Christmas. The great stove was glowing, things were simmering, and there were the smells of delicious food in the air.
As you see, we are trying to get as much done as possible tonight. We are having 12 people for dinner tomorrow.
The daughter-in-law said in a sharp voice, "I can't see why you don't let your maids do the work."
I have always worked. There's no excuse for laziness.
The daughter-in-law replied, "I'm not lazy if that's what you mean. We'd never have any dinner if I had to cook it."
That's no great loss. Well, have you come to pay the rent?
The mother handed her the money, and the landlady went to write her a receipt. Nobody asked her to sit down, so she stood in the middle of the floor and sniffed the entrancing fragrances and looked at the mountain of food that would have served her little family for a month. While she waited, the landlady's little boy came in and said,
"Are you the mother of the girl that lives in my mother's rental house?
Yes,
Are you going to have a tree?
yes indeed.
Oh, would you like to see mine?"
I'd love to.
So he led her to a great room where there was a tree that touched the ceiling with myriads of lights and gold ornaments. Under the tree were boxes of unwrapped toys for the children. One of the toys was a doll in a pink dress. The mother drew in her breath and shook her head.
I'll bet it's the best tree in the neighborhood. But Mom and Dad didn't know I see it.
Oh, don't they?
Nope, and it's fun to fool them.
Is it? You know, I think the nicest thing would be not to see the tree before Christmas Day. Wouldn't it be nice to have someone tie a handkerchief around your eyes and lead you in and out and roundabout, and then untie it, and there would be the tree, all shining and splendid.
The boy's eyes had a new look in them.
Wow! Did anyone ever tie one of those over your eyes
Oh, yes,
and lead you in and out?
most definitely.
Well, nobody does things like that in our house. They would think it's silly.
Do you think it's silly?
No, I don't.
Would you like to come and see our tree? You don't have to be blindfolded, but we would lead you in and out.
Tonight?
No, tomorrow morning, Christmas Day early,
Before breakfast?
before breakfast.
I'd like to do that very, very much.
It was a bargain, sealed with a quick squeeze of their hands. The mother went back to the kitchen. The landlady returned with the receipt, and the mother went out the back door to return home. From the big house, she could hear yelling from the daughter-in-law and her husband. She heard arguments about money and shivered and drew her cape around her as she ran home.
She made coffee and a dish of milk toast, setting it in the oven while she stood at the window watching. At last she saw what looked like a star low down and knew it was a lantern. She opened the door wide. Her husband set the lantern down and took her in his arms.
I'm tired and hungry, but the sight of you is better than food or drink.
Sit down and eat, dear, and let me tell you what we've been up to today.
When she came to the part about the landlady and the rent, she said,
I am telling you this because it has a happy ending.
Everything with you has a happy ending.
Well, this is a happy ending with a difference. When I went over to pay the rent, I was feeling poor and wishing that I had a pink doll for our baby and a car for you and a magic carpet to carry us away from work and worry. I even went to the parlor and saw their tree, decorated from floor to ceiling. But when I went away, I was glad to return to our little home.
What made you so glad?
Love is here. But there seemed to be nothing but hate there in that big house among all their possessions. They were saying angry things to each other, and their dinner will be a feast like the fatted calf of Scripture. But in our house is the faith of a child in the goodness of God, and the faith of her mother in the goodness of a man who works hard to bring his family what he can.
And the blessing of a woman who has never known defeat.
Mother and father stayed up all night. They made popcorn balls and boiled sugar molasses and nuts for candy. They cut little Christmas elves out of paper, coloring their jackets bright red with silver buttons of tinfoil. Then they put the candy, popcorn, painted elves, and a red candle in a big red basket and set it away. The mother brought out the chocolate mouse.
We will put this on the clock where she'll find it first thing in the morning. She was okay with giving up the doll, and she will love the tree, especially if our little guest shows up.
We'd better go to bed. We have to get up very early.
And you'll have to run ahead and light the candle.
well, they rose up before dawn the next morning, and so did the landlady's son. He stood on the step, waiting, blowing on his cold hands.
So there he stood, never having been out alone like this. He had always stayed in his warm bed. Then he'd dress and go down to breakfast, where his father would scold him for being late. and his mother would scold him for eating too fast. This day, however, had begun with an adventure, and he was thrilled.
Hello there. You startled me. For a minute, I thought you might be Santa Claus lost on his way back to the North Pole. Merry Christmas. Come on in.
The father opened the door, turned on the light, and there was the table set for 4.
You see, we've set a place for you. We must eat a little something before we go out.
Are we going out? I came to see the tree.
We are going out to see the tree.
Before the boy could ask any questions, the mother appeared.
Shh, hickory dickory dock, the mouse ran up the clock.
The little girl in her red dressing gown came flying in.
Oh, Mother, the mouse is on the clock.
Well, it seemed to the little boy that he had never seen anything as exciting as the things that followed.
Playing the game as if it were the most important thing in the world were the little girl's mother and father. The landlady's son held his breath for fear he would wake from this entrancing dream and find himself in his own bed or eating breakfast with his stodgy parents who had never played with him in his life. The girl firmly refused to eat the mouse.
He's my darling Christmas mouse, Mama.
Well, I'll put him on the clock again, where Kitty can't get to him while we're out.
Oh, are we going out?
Yes.
Where are we going?
I think we ought to look around and see if maybe we can find Christmas hiding in the woods.
For breakfast, they had bread and butter and glasses of milk, and everything tasted delicious to the boy. But first, they bowed their heads.
Dear Christ child, on this Christmas morning, bless these children and keep our hearts young and full of love for thee.
The boy, when he lifted his head, had a funny feeling as if he wanted to cry. As soon as they finished, away they went into the woods back of the house.
Suddenly, they came upon a single light shining through the trees. It came from a red candle that was set at the top of a little living tree. It was the only light on the tree, but it showed off the beautiful decorations.
It's our trees, my dear.
It seemed to the boy that his heart would burst. The father lifted the girl on his shoulder. The mother reached out for the boy's hand and drew him close.
Okay, children, let's put out the candle and head for home.
Merry Christmas! Merry Christmas!
The family waved goodbye to the boy.
It was late when the little boy got home, but he had not been missed. Everyone was up and everything was upset. The daughter-in-law had left abruptly with her husband and child, who was to have had the pink dolly.
Good riddance, the landlady said. She ate no breakfast and worked in the kitchen to get the dinner ready for 9 now instead of 12. She kept mumbling good riddance and did not once say Merry Christmas.
The boy had something in his heart that felt warm and glowing, and he came into the kitchen and called to his mother.
Mother, may I speak to you?
What do you want? Can't you see I'm busy?
May I have the pink dolly?
What next? What does a boy need with a doll?
I'd like to give it to the little girl that lives in the rental house.
Do you think I buy dolls to give away?
Well, they gave me a Christmas present.
What did they give you?
What? Oh, they gave me a Christmas present.
He opened his hand and showed a little flute tied with a red ribbon. Lifting to his mouth, he played a halting version of Hickory Dickory Dock that his father had taught him.
Oh, that's nothing but a reed from the pond.
Now the boy knew it was more than that. It was magic that made your heart feel warm and happy. So he said again,
I'd like to give her the doll.
He reached out his hand and touched his mother's. Her own eyes softened.
Oh well, do as you please.
The boy ran into the great room and took the doll, wrapped her in paper, and flew out the door to the little house and knocked. When the door opened, he saw that his friends were sitting down to dinner, and there was the pie, all brown and piping hot, with a wreath of holly, and the little girl was saying,
And the onions were silver and the carrots were gold.
I brought you a present.
He took off the paper, and there was the pink doll.
Is it really for me?
Yes.
What a beautiful thing to do.
the mother bent and kissed him on the cheek. Again that warm feeling came into his heart, and he lifted his face to her and said,
May I come sometimes and be your boy?
Yes, you may.
When the boy went away, she stood in the door and watched him. Such a lovely little boy who knew so little of loving. Because she knew so much of love, her eyes filled to overflowing. In a moment, she wiped away the tears and returned to the table. Smiling at her husband and daughter, she said,
And the potatoes are ivory? Oh, who would ask for turkey when we can have a Christmas pie like this?
Hello, and welcome to the Quail Park Readers Theater presentation of Santa Retires, which was conceived of by Kay Dichter and written by Jonathan Dichter. This tale begins, as so many Santa tales do, in the wintry North Pole. A cold wind is blowing and the snow is as soft as cotton. Mrs. Claus is seated in a large, comfortable easy chair beside a roaring fireplace with a steaming hot mug of cocoa in her hand. Next to her chair is a matching chair and a small side table with another steaming hot mug on it, waiting for the return of her husband. It is December 25th, and it is around 10 a.m. when the door opens, and, as on so many Christmases before, Santa comes home.
Oh, my back. I tell you that I think I'm getting too old for this job.
How'd it go, dear?
I suppose it went okay. The kids seemed happy, and I made it to all the houses. I'm just so tired. I wonder if it's even worth it anymore.
That's nice, dear.
Are you listening to me?
No, dear. What was it you were saying? Something about the reindeer?
Good heavens, woman! I wasn't saying anything about the reindeer. I said I'm tired of doing this. I need a break. Maybe a long one.
Surely there is something that I can do to help you.
Well, now that you mention it, there is something I've been thinking about that would help me. And if you were willing to join me, it would make it that much easier.
Another Star Wars movie marathon?
Ho, ho, ho. My love, no, I think it's time to retire.
Retire? You can't retire. You're the Santa. You're the Santa. You know that, don't you?
I found a place that sounds amazingly brilliant, senior living. It says 2 drinks a day. It says activities and meals and signature anytime dining, it says.
As Santa explains his idea for their new life, Jingle, the head elf, walks in to get the annual Christmas post-ride report. He is holding a clipboard and wearing a hat with bells on it.
Well, Clauses, another successful Christmas ride under our considerable leather belts. And how are we feeling? Is the cocoa to our liking?
He wants to retire. He wants to move out of the North Pole To some Quail place.
Quail!
Retire. Move? You can't be serious. Santa, who will be in charge of the elves?
You do
The
it!
toy making, the Christmas ride. Who will be Santa?
You do it!
Me? I'm not qualified. I'm just a supervisor. I can't do what you can do.
You do more than just toys, Santa dear. You bake cookies, you tuck the elves into bed, you care for and feed the reindeer. You're a very busy man.
Nope, I'm done. You can come with me and you can stay, or you can stay here. You'll have a whole year to figure it out. And the new Santa will be, I'm moving to Lynnwood, Washington.
After an exhaustive search for the proper retirement community, Santa had decided on a newer property that had recently opened in Lynnwood. He quickly made friends with the residents and got active in the community.
I've heard that you're interested in serving on the resident council. Is that right?
That's right, if it's a relaxing job.
Well, not only is it relaxing, but there's never any disagreements or drama at all.
That's great. I'll happily join.
Nick, you have a great deep voice. Have you considered joining the Readers Theater group?
What's that?
We put on plays for the residents.
Plays? That seems like a lot of work. I'm retired. I don't want to be memorizing lines or getting up and dancing.
Oh, no, Nick. We read. We sit. It's a reader's theater.
No memorizing.
Nope. While Nick was acclimating to his new community at Quail Park, Mrs. Claus and Jingle were having their share of problems back at the North Pole.
Jingle,
Yes, Mrs.
what is this huge bookshelf of binders for? What did he even do with these? Why do we have them? Wait, are these the lists? Naughty or nice?
Just then, two more elves, Jangle and Mistletoe, came bounding into the room.
That's it? We've had it.
Yes, we've had it.
We demand justice.
Justice.
We can't sleep. Nobody's tucking us in. We have no cookies. We are starving. And we refuse to make one more toy until you explain where our Santa is and why our benefits are gone.
We refuse.
I think I can handle this.
Jangle can handle this.
I should have brought one of the reindeer instead of you. Mrs. Claus. Anyway, Mrs. Claus, we demand to know what you're going to do about the conditions here.
I don't know yet. I'm working on it. We're working on it, aren't we, Jingle?
We are?
Jingle.
Of course we are. We've even put out a call to the Christmas Angel to help with the workload.
Earlier that day,
Hi there. You've reached the Christmas Angel. Unfortunately, I can't get to your prayer at this exact moment. But if you leave me your name and number, I'll be happy to help. Just let me know what you need and I'll find a way to fix it if I can.
Hey, Angel. I'm in kind of a bind. I have to replace Santa and have no idea what to really do here. So if you can call me or something.
Oh, hey, Mrs. Claus. I was screening my prayers. I'm here, so what's up?
I have to replace Santa.
Why? What's wrong with him?
He's retired.
We can do that?
I didn't think so, but apparently we can.
Like to Boca Raton?
No, Lynnwood.
I've always loved Boca.
Focus, Angel, focus.
I wonder if I can get a condo.
back to the present.
And how did the conversation with the angel go?
Oh, she was very interested.
In something.
Look, we know when we're not valued. We demand our Santa back or else.
Or else? Or else what?
Have you ever heard of the EEU?
The EEU?
Yep, the Elf Equality Union.
We're organized.
And if things don't go back to the way they are supposed to be, no Christmas.
After Django and Mistletoe left, Mrs. Claus sat down and cried.
Oh, Santa, what have you done?
Santa, or Nick as he was now known, was living the good life at Quail Park, playing bingo, going to the casino, watching movies, and enjoying entertainment brought in for the enjoyment of the residents, like improv and magic. But as Thanksgiving approached, he noticed a problem.
Nick, my grandkids are asking for something called Switch for Christmas this year. Do you know what that is?
Of course! It's a new video game system. But there are much better things they could get for Christmas, like train engines, airplanes, boats, and yes, I suppose, video games.
Well, I'm sure Santa will take care of whatever we can. He knows everything.
Yeah, everything.
Gee, Nick, has anyone ever told you that you look a lot like Santa Claus?
No, never. I have to go to my room for a bit and think about something.
It was weighing on him, obviously.
All those children, no presents, all those tears, all those uneaten cookies.
Meanwhile, back at the workshop, Christmas Eve was upon them.
Well, Jingo, there's nothing for it. We're going to have to do this ourselves.
But Mrs., it's just not possible. You can't deliver all the presents, fly the sleigh, and do it all in one night.
Only Santa can. But we're just going to have to try. Help me get this suit on.
There you go. Now I'll tie the sash. Good. All right. Let me hear your ho, ho, ho.
Ho, ho, ho.
Oh, that'll never do. It has to come from deep inside you, from your belly, from your Christmas spirit. Let me hear it. Ho, ho, ho.
Ho, ho, ho.
Closer. But it should sound more like
Ho, ho, ho!
that. It should sound exactly like that. Santa, welcome back.
I just couldn't face the idea of those children waking up tomorrow without smiles. Being Santa is just what I do the best, isn't it?
I'm so happy you're back, dear.
Santa!
Yes, I'm back. And let's get ready for my ride.
Dear me, what have they been feeding you? You've lost about 85 pounds.
It's that low sodium soup and a salad bar.
No way, not from my Santa. Jingle, jangle, mistletoe.
Yes.
Load the sleigh while I get him fattened up. Come on, Santa. Cookies and cocoa are needed and pronto.
Oh, my dear, I did miss you so much.
After force feeding him 35 chocolate chip cookies and 15 mugs of cocoa in just under 20 minutes, Santa was bloated and plump and filled out his suit nicely. The bags were packed, the reindeer were harnessed, and Santa happily and joyfully hopped into his sleigh.
Tell me we're never going to have to go through this again.
Well, I'm not really ready to retire. But I do know a lovely place where we can visit if you want to play bingo sometimes. I think I'm still on the resident council even.
Mrs. Claus and the elves beamed with pride as the sleigh took off into the night sky. and they heard him exclaim as if he were having a lark.
Happy Christmas to all the folks at Quail Park.
Happy Christmas to all, and to all a good night. We wish you a Merry Christmas. We wish you a Merry Christmas. We wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Good tidings we bring to you and your kin. We wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Now bring us a figgy pudding. Now bring us a figgy pudding. Now bring us a figgy pudding and a cup of good cheer. We won't go until we get some. We won't go until we get some. We won't go until we get some. So bring it right here. Good tidings we bring to you and your kin. We wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. We wish you a Merry Christmas. We wish you a Merry Christmas. We wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy